Okay, I wanted to get going this morning, and I kind of mentioned this to Grant. And one thing that I've mentioned, there's on more than one occasion, I say, "Oh, we can clean that up," or "We need to come back and circle back to that," and maybe troubleshoot that later. And so there's some things where we've made enough changes where we can maybe clean up our code a little bit and redeploy and get it all updated. And troubleshoot some problems that are kind of lingering. And one of the things that I don't love is we kind of had to revert back to using the environment variable to connect to our database. And so process.env.db URL kind of got us back to putting our using our connection string inside of .env. And we have this config package that I wind up using in the future. And so I do want to get this config package working on our live, if I can troubleshoot that and solve that problem today. That's kind of one thing. There's also some additional packages that I'm going to configure and kind of walk through using that are more for production. And so, just getting this up and, running, and then maybe cleaning up the code a little bit, so just some, again, summary kind of cleanup tasks here. And so, probably the first thing to do is to go ahead and look at the live version of the site. And so I'm going to go to Google Cloud. And currently, I believe my database, the ports kind of all got closed. And so that's another thing we could do is kind of figure out what IP address specifically we need to add here to kind of open up the correct ports. So I go to the App Engine dashboard. Here's my URL. And so, the site's still live, but if I try and hit the database, it crashes. So I need to open up the right ports. So I would start by going to Mongo and maybe just temporarily opening them all up again. So that this works. And let's go to Issue Tracker, Network Access, add an IP address, access from anywhere, and I'll temporarily add it without an expiration. Okay, so now if I kind of refresh that and hit users, my users come back. All right, so that was kind of the first thing. The second thing was to refactor my code to use the config. Now I added this production JSON, and I added that after the fact. I'm going to take that back out. So here I've got DB URL points, this default points at the information inside of .env, and so DB URL, DB name, custom environment variables, HTTP host, hostname, port, just double checking, DB, URL. Okay. And let's see that I have a host name and a port in my .env, host name and a port. Let's go back into my server, my database file. And what we had here was config.get db URL. And that means we have to bring in config from config, and this was config.get db.name, and locally that kept everything running, and to the point where I can still use my Postman and retrieve data locally. But what happened before was when I redeployed this, my live site went down. And so I obviously haven't made those changes live. So let's kind of redeploy and it should go back down. Actually, before I redeploy, maybe I want to install some different packages. Let me look. Okay, so let's go to npm and let's take a look at some packages. CORS cores.
Sure. What's that? Okay. Okay.
So this is middleware. So as we've done a couple times, we install middleware in our server.js. You can kind of see here enabling cores on all requests. And so we're not really at the point where we're using this. But this allows, I've always found it interesting that the documentation, so to enable cores with various cross-origin resource sharing. And so what this boils down to is we're going to be able to have multiple, essentially think of it as the middle tier sharing resources with the front end. And so our front end we're going to build is in React. We haven't done this yet, but when you build it kind of like a middle tier and you want to send data or send requests from that middle tier to the front end, you have to be able to share resources, and this is that package that's going to help us do that. So I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves on this one, but I will go ahead and bring this in. It's a pretty simple thing to do. So let's bring in cores. So we're going to go into terminal. Yes. Look at cores. npm I cores. Paste. Okay. Now on our server.js, up at the top, import cores from cores, and then install the middleware. let's see. So there's our app. There's our routes. I'm going to do it before the routes. App.use CORS. Okay. The next Helmet helps secure Express apps by setting response headers. So again, it's kind of a simple middleware. That's going to help us with security. And so npm install helmet. Now, in the past, I've had this if config get the environment is production. App use helmet. And so if you kind of want to read up a little bit more on helmet, off of npm you can get the homepage, and you can kind of see again this is a security thing. But I don't think this is going to necessarily help us with our current issue, but it's just something that can help us with production kind of implementing security. So the next is Morgan. There's two more, Morgan and compression. Compression. Okay, kind of compressing the data as it's sent back and forth. You can see there's a lot of weekly downloads. But yeah, compressing data as it's sent across the wire is a good thing. So we're going to install compression. And then we're going to import compression from compression and install the middleware app.use compression. And finally, Morgan. So you can see this is a logger for troubleshooting. So just some different tools. I don't know that we're going to use any of these immediately, but I just know that, I've used them in the past, so kind of getting those set up. So let's bring in Morgan. Now, app not use course. Down here. If Morgan is enabled in the config, it's equal to true or string true. So Boolean true or string true. Let's bring in Morgan. Okay, so there's a couple calls to config, right? There's a variable called env and a morgan.enabled. So let's go into config, our default JSON, and let's add those. So currently, I'm going to say the environment is development. Morgan enabled true format tiny. And in the custom environment variables, basically copy and paste. Copy that, paste over here. Except for here, the environment, node env. Now, that line is interestingly enough similar to no. So node env for environment, Morgan, that might be a significant line of code in deployment. Okay, so HTTP. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do a redeployment and see if it's still down after just making some those tweaks. I don't think what we did has fixed it yet, but I just wanted to try doing that first. Okay, so close, keep that open, back out, and in the terminal, G cloud app deploy. Do you want to continue? Yes. And pause while this does its thing. Okay, so that finished. There's my URL. Go back here, refresh. Yeah, this is what we had last time. Same thing for you, Grant?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to pause here and just do some looking and troubleshooting. So here was the problem with our Morgan. So in default, you had Morgan here, right? Grant, can you confirm this is what we had in default JSON? And then on custom environment variables, we did not do this here. So we had to set enabled to Morgan enabled. You did not have that, correct?
No.
Okay. So in the .env, here's what we'll do. Once you get this, inside of your custom environment variables, we'll make this Morgan enabled in our .env, true, and we'll set the Morgan format like that. That should help us with those Morgan errors. Does that get your server back up and running?
Yeah, I'm up and running now.
Okay. Okay, back to the original problem, troubleshooting. So just kind of combing along, I realized I didn't say import helmet from helmet. I was missing that. That allows me to use helmet there. All right. So, bingo. Okay. We are up and running now. The one change I made off camera, fixing basically this was causing the server to crash, and I looked at the app log and saw that I didn't have my import there. On default JSON, I just put my connection string in here. So I copied it out of the .env, basically copied the DB URL into here, and copied the database name into here. That way when we did the That way, when we did the config get db URL and db name, I think that was just our issue the whole time, which is great. Now, kind of going back here, API bugs list keyword server down. If I kind of copy that and manually throw that in to my path here, you could see it is returning the bug that says server down. So all of our new routes are implemented, and we are using the config package and all that fun stuff. Now, what else can we do? So refresh that, we're up and running. I did notice here, if I go back, kind of refresh this, I think that's an old one because we fixed that error. Go back to Google Cloud and issue tracker, app engine dashboard. I did notice this IP address, but it looks like that's a IP address of the Mongo server, not of, like, in other words, what IP address do we need to open up through the firewall on Mongo? But I think that's not the right answer. So that's one thing that could be looked at, is what IP address do we actually need to open up on the firewall. That I don't have that answer right now. The next thing, and I don't know if we want to do this refactoring or not. I think it's going to be a little bit down to preference. But as I was coding in the last labs, close this up now that all this is up and running, and that makes me happy. You kind of get up here and you look at this import statement, and it's like, man, you're importing all these methods one by one, and it's all coming from the database.js. There's another syntax, right? Import star as db module from, and give it this path. Okay, so this creates an object called db module where you have access to all of these methods, and so you can kind of comment that out. And now we should start getting like little squigglies down here saying, hey, I don't know what connect is. And then it's no longer just connect, it's dbmodule.connect. And so this is dbmodule.connect. And so now we have an object with all of the methods. And this is db module. So it adds a little bit of code elsewhere, not at the top. So db module dot, db module dot. And that way you don't have to import every individual method. You just say, hey, bring it all in. And then I think this is a little bit of a preference. Can't say that I have a strong preference. And so I'll do it on this file and let you kind of make your own decisions around which one you would prefer. Thankfully, our linter is showing us all of these unrecognized methods. Okay. And I guess you could do the same thing on user while we're at it. Import star as DB module from database.js. Comment out that line of code. Clean that up. And that's something that I talked about is like, okay. And so now I should be able to run it. We're still connected. We can still get our data, and really nothing's changed, just a little code refactor. Good. Okay, so now that we've kind of cleaned some things up a little bit and redeployed, gonna put a pause in the issue tracker and go ahead and push it in its current state. And so I'll go into issue tracker and tortoise-git commit to master. And so it's just another tool to do a push. And I will say updated list routes and list route, which you guys already did that in your last lab. I just brought that code in myself. And deployment settings, commit and push. So you guys go ahead and get that push to GitHub. Close. And Grant has offered, what we started a couple weeks ago and did not finish was the GitHub developer pack for students. And so there was a couple videos where, you had to send your student ID in and, submit to be a student on we're a GitHub University kind of thing. And so Grant did that. He did get his email confirmation. So Grant, you want to go ahead and share your screen maybe? And we'll kind of see that confirmation email. I'll stop streaming mine. And so if I go full screen, all right. So Grant got access to Global Campus. Little choppy on my end. Helps students and teachers. Congratulations, you are on the GitHub campus. There we go. Student, you can now explore offers provided by GitHub partners in this GitHub Student Developer Pack. That's what we're looking for. View student events and much more. GitHub Community, GitHub Education. Give the gift of GitHub Education to your whole school. Okay, what link do we click on? I'm looking access for that Student Developer Pack. So maybe that second link, not that one, but that one. Yeah. You're probably going to have to log in. So there's Global Campus. Under Students, get your student developer pack. There we go. Okay, so you're logged in, right? I think
Yeah.
so. Okay. And so now you have a bunch of access here. So let's kind of, there's experiences, not really. And maybe this is some of the things you'll explore into, but let's scroll down a little bit. I'm not so interested in the experiences, more in the, like the tools. Give me the free credits to stuff. Bootstrap Studio, interesting. Okay, click on Cloud down there. All offers Cloud. You see anything like Google Cloud or anything like that? Looks like the same stuff. What if you scroll down more? Oh, okay. There's cloud offers. Digital. Okay, cool. Okay, so DigitalOcean, simple cloud hosting, $200 in credit. Azure credit. Heroku, NetWise, Azure, Visual Studio, Dev Essentials. Scroll down a little more. How long is this page? That's about it. Okay. Well, that's what I was thinking, is that under these offers here, there might be something more for Google Cloud. I was more or less hoping, and it doesn't look like that's the case. There does look like some other deployment options that if Google Cloud, for whatever reason, stopped working for us, we could explore. Now, if you kind of go up a little bit more, that Heroku is something we've used in this class in the past. They used to offer free tier for everybody, but they took that away literally like a year ago, just under a year ago. It was like last Thanksgiving, and that's when we had to bring in Google Cloud. And the challenge there is really looking for a solution that doesn't require a credit card. I like our current solution, but it still requires a credit card, even though it doesn't auto bill. And I kind of forget how long it's long enough for the class. I want to say it's like 3 months, where it doesn't bill you anything, but eventually that's, it's long enough for the class, but it's not good enough for much outside of that. Okay, well, I did want to just look at that and see what options there were. And scroll back up for me. Does look like click on just at a offers in this bundle virtual. Click on just out of curious career readiness. A 4-week guide to launching your career. This might be worth exploring, for our students. This is, if it's a 4-week thing, we probably get it done in less than 4 weeks, I would imagine.
Right.
Automate daily stand-ups. Scroll up for me a little bit. So is there like a step one? If you like scroll down, is it like start this? Oh, get career ready. Complete this 4-week guided experience that shows you how to present your skills and launch your career. Courses go live weekly on Thursday from... Very cool. GitHub pages. GitHub pages are okay, but they're just for static pages. Do you have a like a static front end site sitting somewhere, Grant?
Yeah, I think we did one. And I guess in the last semester.
Yeah.
We GitHub pages at one point.
You did GitHub pages. You have like kind of a portfolio site.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, now you have access to these resources. Not too sure how much, if at all, we'll bring them into this class, but just wanted to show that these are some free resources out there for you because, as a Rankin student, Rankin is a, GitHub campus is what it's called. And that's something that we had to apply for. Therefore, we got accepted, and therefore you have those benefits. So, all right. Thank you for that. Okay, so here, last thing, and we'll kind of start this now. If I go back. I want to find out what IP addresses we need to kind of enable in Mongo to let through the firewall. And to get into here, we need to go to this firewall, VPC Networks firewall. And you get this error, data could not be loaded, continue. So I'm going to enable this API. We'll let that spin for a minute. Actually, I'm gonna have to stop here because we have this alumni interview. We'll come back to this.